Hey guys, in this video I'm going to show you how to process your data for the Motion and Graphical Analysis Lab. So over here I've written down an overview of what we normally do with labs where you have data that's coming to you from the Pasco motion sensor or force sensor or whatever it may happen to be. There's a lot of deleting extra columns and all the muddling around that we have to do in Google Sheets or Excel in order to make a decent graph that we can make a trend line for and all that. Vernier graphical analysis is a little bit different. Many of these things we won't actually have to do, or else we won't be able to do them, but it ends up not mattering. Now over here in this window I've got my air server running, and so that's showing you everything that's happening on my iPad screen. And so I'm going to begin by opening up this data set. Now I'm going to open the .csv. You can't actually take a spreadsheet and send it directly to Vernier Graphical Analysis unless it is a .csv. So it will not open .xls or XLSX or whatever the native format is for Google Docs or Google Sheets. It needs to be a CSV file. Now that is what should be provided to you by your motion sensor, but if it's not, you can open it in Google Docs, or excuse me, Google Sheets, and you can save it as a .csv on a desktop computer. All right, now if you're on your iPad, it might be a little different. But whatever. Hopefully what you have already is a .csv. All right, now next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click these three dots right here. Perhaps your view looks a little different. My iPad is a little bit older than yours probably, but you probably have all the same options. The one I'm going to pick here is Open In. And as you can see, there's many different options that are going to appear. Hopefully, Copy to Graphical is one of your options. If that is not one of your options, then you might have to get creative, such as, I don't know, send it to your email first or something like that. For example, I can open a .csv directly from my email to Graphical Analysis. I'm not sure exactly how iPads work on connecting apps. It seems kind of random sometimes which ones work and which ones don't. So try a couple different workarounds. All right, now here we have a completely blank thing. Why is it completely blank? Well, what we should have in front of us is a graph. Now, the reason it didn't work has to do with how my data is formatted. So let me go ahead and, oops, I can't click. I have to poke with my finger. I'll click that right there. And that particular button is for changing the view. So you can make it be, I can display two graphs at once. Or perhaps you want it to display, three graphs. No, we never want three graphs. Pretty much one graph at a time is what I want. But in this case, I actually need to go look at my table. All right, here's the data table. And if you were to open the .csv directly, there would be a bunch of nonsense in this first column here, just absolute garbage. And all it is the time and the date on which this particular data point was collected, which is kind of a silly thing to include. I don't know why that's even in there. We don't need it. But what we do need to do here is give some sensible titles to these columns. All right, now this first column here, excuse me, I keep thinking I can click on it. This first column here, I'm going to go to column options. I don't need to do anything for this column. I'm just going to leave it called Run 1 because this column was the date and the time. It's blank because the format for that won't work in Vernier. I'm just not going to touch that column because I won't be graphing it. All right, the next column though, if you were able to open this in, say, an Excel or Google Sheets, you would see that it's called time. Now that information would have been in row 1, right? There were words in here. Vernier graphical analysis deletes anything that's not numbers. It can't understand anything but numbers, and so it deletes all the words when you import a CSV. Now, I need this to have a useful label. Okay, I've got to call it something other than run1. So I'm going to call it run1 time. Ooh, and look, I can also tell it units. Come on, go down. Okay, let's try done. No, didn't like that. Okay, let's try again. I'm gonna try to add in the units here. I don't know if it's my fat fingers. I can't do it for some reason. Okay, well, it would be nice if we could add the units, which are seconds, for that one. Okay, so now that one's going to be called time. The next column is called position. So we'll call that one run1 position. Nope, still can't add units. All right, done. And then the next column, we're going to call that one velocity, because that's what this column is. And again, those titles would be in there if you were to open this directly in Sheets, but Vernier deletes all the words and non-numerical things. All right, this last column that starts with the word run1, I'm also not going to touch that one because that one is acceleration, and we are not going to be making an acceleration versus time graph. We just don't need it. Okay, now, why did I go through all that? What was the purpose of it? Well, let's go change the view here back to, let's look at a graph. Now, the graphs that you are going to make are going to be position versus time and velocity versus time for each of your runs. So if I poke the bottom column there, or excuse me, the row, the bottom axis, there we go, x-axis. That one I want to be time. So I will select from my incredibly long list here, run1, time. All right. Then I'm going to poke the y-axis and have that one do, let's say, position. Now, notice something here. Most of these still just say like run 2, run 2, run 2, run 3, right? They weren't called anything helpful. And so the reason for naming it something helpful, such as position, is so that I can even tell what I'm looking at, right? One of the things that I'm going to ask you to do with your graphs is make sure that they have a label on the axes. So this one's good, except, oh, if only I could have put in the units for it, such as seconds, then it would have displayed that here. Maybe you'll have to hand write that in and say notability or something like that. But whatever, this is pretty good, right? Run1 time. So now I know I'm looking at a graph of position versus time. All right. The next thing that you're going to do with all of your graphs, let's see how we're doing here. Delete all of the extra columns. Well, I didn't delete any of them, but I did ignore them, meaning I didn't change the title, and so I know I'm going to skip over that one, okay? All right, create a scatter plot. That's this. I did it. Sometimes it's a little harder to make something like Sheets give you a decent scatter plot. It'll give you a graph, but it's not the kind of graph that you want. So you have to, if you watch that video, I show you how to pick a scatter plot, but this one only does paired data, and that's what a scatter plot shows, right? Something with an X and a Y coordinate. All right, for deleting the crap and pre-motion data points and noise. All right, noise, this one doesn't really have any noise, but noise would be like if it said the position was suddenly way up here, and that was a lie. If any of your graphs have noise, I'm going to tell you right now, don't use Vernier. Sorry if you wasted 9 minutes, but you have to use Sheets or some other thing because I don't think you can delete data points in Vernier. I don't know, maybe it's possible. If I go to the table, it may well be that I can delete something. Or let's see. See if I can delete, say, this one here. Nope, my options are copy, I think. Yep, can't change the data. Okay, so if there's noise, you're stuck with it. All right, So that means that you would need to use Excel or something, or Sheets. Okay, now, the next thing, though, that we will do for all of them is make a graph. Make a trend line on your graph. That's this right here. Okay? Now, we'll come back to the question of pre-motion data points in a little bit, because you might have been thinking, oh, that's these right here, right? That was before you pushed it, or I pushed it. And then this is the carts moving, and then this is it hit the bumper. What about deleting those data points? It's going to be okay, actually, because of how Vernier does things. Now, this is the trend line button, all right? So if I poke that, it actually does a bunch of different things, like it'll calculate, say, like the average position, tell you the min and max, and other things like that. The bit that we care about, though, is the apply curve fit right there. So if I poke that, aha, it puts a trend line on, and I can change the fit, right? I could make it do how about a quadratic? Ooh, all right, that looks different. I don't want quadratic. You will not actually need to do a quadratic fit for anything. It's all going to be linear. And over here, it's displaying the equation of the line. Yeah, this is great, right? Actually, this is awful. This trend line is garbage. I mean, look at that. It doesn't even kind of fit the data. All right, don't panic. The problem was how we selected the data. All right, so let's hit the X there that was in that corner and remove that curve fit because it wasn't right. Now, looking at my data, I can see that the curve that I'm interested in seems to start at like 0.8, maybe here even, and goes to about here, and then after this moment, that's when it hits the bumper and bounces off. So I'm going to put my finger on that data point, okay? Put my finger on it. You can't see my finger, right? But there's the cursor, all right? That data point. Put my finger on it, hold, and hang on. Close enough. Maybe not close enough. Let's try again. There we go. Sometimes it won't read my finger correctly. All right, and I carefully select only the data points that I think the curve fit ought to apply to. And then I can poke that button again until it apply a curve fit. And that looks gorgeous. That actually fits it. Oh, this is wonderful. And so this trend line is exactly what I'm hoping for, right? It has the equation of the line, right? It's got the slope, the y-intercept. The R value here is a measure of its statistical fitness, like how well does it fit the line, and looks to me like it fits that line super good. So I'm very happy about that. All right, let's go back over here and see how I'm doing. So did I delete the crap? Well, no, but I didn't select the crap. Now, the reason why I said use Excel or Sheets for the noise problem is there's no way to skip a data point that's in the middle of this selection. So since I can't do that, you need to go to a different app and delete the data point. So yeah, because there's no other way to do it. All right, now step 4 was make a trend line, have it display the equation, and display the r² value. All right, now I said r². For whatever reason, Vernier uses r instead of r² as their measure of statistical fitness. Don't worry about the difference between those. It's not important for you to know. Just know that if it's closer to 1, that's a good trend line. If it's not close to 1, then it's a bad trend line. And if you were to take the video back a few minutes when I had all the data selected, you would have seen that R is a not quite as good number. Now, the last couple of things to cover would be make sure that you have a title and you have the axes labeled, okay? That means this should say meters. I wasn't able to add that for some reason in Vernier, but you can add it in Notability if you also can't add it in Vernier. Similarly, this should say seconds down here. And then my title should be something like constant velocity, position versus time. All right, if I have all that, then it's glorious. All right, now I said do this in Notability. That means I kind of skipped a step. What was that? How do I get this into Notability? It's like this, y'all. You screenshot it. Oh yeah, now I have a screenshot and I can put that into Notability and finish doing any of the little formatting things that I might need to do. All right, I hope that was helpful. I think that's everything. Have a good one, guys.